We need to do better at planning these things.
Yeah, I wish. It reminds me of that lady who's just like, yeah, they should really move the deer crossing signs because that's like 45 miles an hour and it's just not safe for them to cross there. Like, do you think that sign is to tell the deer to cross? She's like, I just think it's really unsafe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So plan that out better. She's like, they should really be in the 25-mile-an-hour zones. Like, you dummy. I was so old. I remember that. She like called into a news station to make a complaint. And she's like, I'm really just trying to get the word out there. And we're like, what? And that they took it so well. They're like, so let me get this straight. You think
Oh no.
And they're like, well, you heard it here, folks. Be really conscious about the deer signs. It's just beautiful.
As if the deer like knew.
Yeah, the deer are like, oh, it's safe to cross here. She's like, no, it's 45 hours old.
That would honestly, that would solve a bunch of problems if the deer knew.
If only they were cognizant of where they were crossing and when.
Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Blair.
And I'm Kirsten, and we are Mediocre Content. And I can't believe we've made it this far in the galaxy already.
In a galaxy far, far away, there were two podcasters named Kirsten and Blair.
And they weren't very
counted
good.
Pluto as a planet, even though technically it is not.
I have so much to say, as you are probably aware.
I just saw Grief Disco Sad Box and on the outline, and I realized that was my good news, but it also made me think of your soapbox from earlier last episode, and I was like, what is happening?
Sad soapbox. It's the same. Honestly, I love a good soapbox.
I know that sounded like garbage for the people listening because they don't really understand, but trust me, it made sense in my brain. Okay.
No, it's fine. I was just like, my response was going to be like, oh, well, isn't this your week for the good news? Did you write that?
No, it totally is. And I definitely saw that. Yeah.
Totally acceptable. Yeah. I feel like my soapboxes were worth. They could be soapier. They could have been much more soapy.
I'm just so, I just wrote this so long ago that
I'm sorry. Are we doing things ahead of schedule? Are we professionals
we are
now?
I know we're doing things not 5 minutes before we have to record.
That's when you know real growth has happened.
Meanwhile, next week I'll just be like, oh yeah, I haven't done it yet. Let me just do it really quick while we chit chat.
It's fine. That's fine. Why our recordings take like 5 hours, not because it takes that long to record, because it takes that long to prepare to record.
Exactly. Totally.
And that's why you listen to mediocre content and not like professional content.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys like your stuff to be ordinary.
And average we are, if not below. Yeah. Any hoodle. Should we disclaim?
We shall. All right. So you guys know the drill. We don't know what we're talking about as per usual. If you feel like there's something wrong or that we did not, other than I'm not talking about our mental well-being. I'm talking about something wrong in like our facts that we have presented on this podcast. Please let us know, or go on the Google machine and Google it yourself and see what you find, because that's one way to do it too. So, we're not the place to get advice. We want you to do your own research if you feel so inclined. And that's that. We're going to jump into the good news now
with sad box.
My grief disco sad box.
Very excited to know what this is about.
So basically, I remember now. Basically, moved by a desire to help people deal with grief and angst caused by COVID-19. And also the climate crisis and Brexit, because this took place in Europe.
There was a lot going on. Yeah.
There was a lot happening. Artist Annie Nicholson wanted to create a space where the public can shake out grief and unravel their climate angst.
Nice.
Nicholson is collaborating with the Lost Project, K67 Berlin, and Street Sound System to realize this ambitious public art project. The kiosk is a refurbished K67 kiosk, a modernist design gem associated with ad hoc post-Soviet spaces, chip stalls, newspaper stands, and student cafes. It evokes a legacy of European unity and collaboration. So basically, it's a box that can be used for a variety of different things, but this particular artist turned it into a space. It's like, I'll show you, or I have a picture of it. It's like a hot pink box.
It's cute.
It's really cute. And it's probably, I would say, like 5x5 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can go in there and DJ sets are, you know, on, and you can just like dance and rage and like do what you want to do. It's more of like a solo to a couple of people activity.
Yeah.
But you still like kind of, it's like a, you know, like everybody wants like a soundproof box where they can go scream and be annoying.
Absolutely.
It's like that, you know. There is also meditation and yoga workshops that are offered, dance classes, and grief raves, which I think is cool.
That is cool.
Where clubbers can request tracks that remind them of absent or lost loved ones. It will be located in London's Canary Wharf before eventually touring Europe and the UK.
Wow.
Nicholson got the idea in a debilitating aftermath of the deaths of her mother's sister and sister's partner in a helicopter crash. And her father died of cancer a few years later.
What the heck? This poor lady.
I know. During times of grief or anxiety, it can be difficult to find joy. Dance floors bring people together in powerful ways and allow people to process complex feelings in a physical way.
True. That's very true.
Yeah, exactly. And she says the dance floor has been a space of silence and safety as I have navigated the many great losses and painful grief in my life throughout the past decade. And having successfully installed public realm projects around grief and mental health over the past 2 years, we have noticed a distinct change in how people wish to connect and come together. There is an overwhelming need to shake out your grief physically right now, says Nicholson.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
I can understand that. It, you know, dance and expression has always been there, but I don't think it's often an outlet that the average person necessarily goes to. I think it's usually like, oh, well, you just have to dream to dance, or like you just have to have a passion for it, but you don't. You can just move your body, and sometimes moving your body is the best medicine, even if it's not dancing, but it can definitely help.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think this is a cool idea.
It is.
Somebody who's taken a lot of their grief and like projected it in a very positive way.
Yeah. What a great idea. I like it.
I think so.
I'm so sorry she had to suffer so much, though. That's awful.
I know.
Ugh,
I agree.
Hate it for her.
But one of those things, you know, where like something bad turns into something good, which is always a positive, good news, you know?
Yes, it is very good news. Good news for people that now have an extra outlet in the UK to express themselves.
Exactly.
Nice.
So the next story I have for you guys is about beluga whales.
Do you know how to speak whale?
I don't. But arguably, I think the beluga whales are like the cutest of all the whales.
They are cute.
For those who don't know, they're like the large white ones. They're so cute.
They like to bash their face on the glass.
They do.
In all the videos.
Perhaps you've watched nest cam footage from organizations like the Fish and Wildlife Service that monitors birds' nests. And if you're a fan of that, then you certainly like, If you're a fan of that, then you'll surely leap like a humpback at the chance to watch the Polar Bear International's beluga cams.
Did you go back just to use that pun? Like, did you?
Yeah, I did.
To use the pun?
It was written in the article, and I thought it was nice.
That's adorable.
During the ice-free months of summertime, about 2/3 of the world's beluga whales, about 57,000 animals, migrate to the waters around Churchill Valley and Hudson Bay in Canada. From the deck of their beluga boat, PBI scientists maintain underwater microphones that allow you to listen to the constant whistling, chattering, and singing of these incredible creatures. The cameras were set up over the last weekend, which is July 15th.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah.
Based on this article, which PBI has designated as Arctic Sea Ice Day to raise awareness about polar bears and sea ice loss.
Nice.
So the Arctic Sea regulates our planet's climate and is essential for polar bears and humans alike, says Krista Wright, executive director of Polar Bears International. Adding, on Arctic Sea Ice Day, we bring the Arctic to people around the world through outreach like the beloved beluga whale live cam. As we expand our operations across the Arctic, we believe that it's more important than ever to work together to slow global warming and preserve Arctic sea ice, along with the creatures that depend on it.
Right.
The beluga cams are also the focus of a big citizen science project. PBI asked viewers to collect individual screenshots from the live stream footage and register them to gather data on the individual animals below the waves. In total, more than 22,000 photographs have been taken by the beluga cam viewers.
That's insane.
Yes. And so basically it's just a YouTube live cam. And if you log on, you hear them like whistling and like making all these weird noises. And it's so cute. They're so adorable.
Clicking on it. Do it. Right this moment.
I bet if you share your sound, the other people can hear it. Like if we maybe it'll record on the podcast too, maybe.
Oh, it's not working for me right now. I don't know if it's under the water at the moment.
Let me see.
We'll go back to it. It's like it might be in movement is what it looks like. It looks like it's being moved. Which is fine. They might be going to like look for, or maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I expected it to be underwater.
It is. When I looked at it, when I read the article, it was underwater. You could see all the little whales swimming by.
That's cute. It really might just be being moved at the moment then.
Okay.
Interesting. I definitely want to hear them though.
Oh yeah, it's above water.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dag nabbit.
I know. Oh my gosh, it was so cute.
It's chill. There'll be opportunity. Well, we'll put the link in the description so that they can go in there and view it too.
Yeah, totes adorbs.
That is adorable. Yeah. I like watching like the bald eagle cams when they have the babies and like the nests and stuff. That's also super cute.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium has a bunch of different live cams in their tanks. Ooh. And there's like one with like the octopus, and then they have a whole tank full of jellyfish, and it's all very soothing looking. It's really cool. And they play like music and stuff. It's legit. You guys should check it out.
That would be perfect if you have trouble sleeping and you just have that on with the sound. Oh, I can't imagine.
Or if you're studying or something like that.
Yes, that'd be so good. So good tips and tricks, guys. Look for these
10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. How adorable. Two very adorable news stories, honestly.
I think so. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So speaking of adorable, we are now at essentially without Earth and the sun. We are now essentially at the end of our little solar system in terms of like planets, which is exciting and strange and beautiful.
Wow.
We've come so far, literally like light years far even. So we are talking about Pluto today, and obviously as millennials, we grew up with Pluto being a planet. And technically speaking, according to even NASA's, because that's where I get all this information, of course, but even according to the way that like NASA classifies it, it is called a dwarf planet. So it's not like they're even taking planet out of the name. So that just befuddles me. But I have some explanations as to why they've decided to do this.
Wow. Okay, good.
Imagine. Reasons. But it's still a planet to me. So Pluto is very complex, and it's got mountains, valleys, plains, craters, maybe even glaciers. And so this is not similar to Uranus or Neptune or even Jupiter in terms of like it doesn't have a clear surface. Pluto does have a very clear surface, and in fact, we've been able to see it, albeit not a lot. And we'll get into exploration later, of course. But it was discovered in 1930 and was long since then considered the ninth planet. After discovery of similar intriguing worlds, however, and what's called the Kuiper Belt, icy Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet. I couldn't care less what they call it. I know what I'm going to call it. So we'll just move on from that. In terms of naming, Pluto was actually named by an 11-year-old girl in 1930, which is super adorable. Her name was Venetia Burney, and she was from Oxford, England, and she suggested this to her grandfather that the new discovery should be named for the Roman god of the underworld. Her grandfather then forwarded this name to someone named, to the Lowell Observatory, who then decided to select it as the name.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very adorable and kept with the theme, ironically. This is from an 11-year-old girl who would like to
I really thought, but I thought you were going to say something like Disney related for some reason, but I realized that 1930, like, that was too early for that.
Yeah,
anyway.
Not really. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There was also someone from the chair of the Department of Classics in Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington. Her name is, isn't that fun to say?
It is fun.
Dr. Elizabeth Vandiver did kind of clarify the name selection. So Pluto is the name of the Roman god of the underworld, equivalent to the Greek Hades. However, the Greek name Ploton, from which the Romans derived their name Pluto, was also occasionally used as another form of Hades, Pluto definitely being the Roman spelling. So just kind of wanted to, just to keep with the theme, that's where it comes from.
We love a theme.
We love it. Distance from the sun, it's quite immense. We're talking over 3 billion miles or over 5 billion kilometers, so it's quite far. Its one-way light time is about 5.5 hours or 290 minutes, and its length for 1 year is about 90,530 Earth days, which equates to around 248 Earth years. Extensive.
Very extensive.
Yeah. The length of 1 day, however, is what I find to be the most crazy, which is 153 hours for 1 day. So just, put that
for
in your
those of us who
pocket.
are procrastinators, I feel like that's very beneficial.
It is very beneficial. You have a long time to get your day done.
That's right.
And as I stated, it is technically classified as a dwarf planet now. It doesn't have rings, but Pluto does actually have 5 moons. The largest and most informed that we are of which is Chiron. And Chiron is about half the size of Pluto itself, making it the largest satellite relative to the planet in orbits in our solar system. And Pluto and Chiron are often referred to as a double planet, and that's because it orbits Pluto at a distance of just 12,000 miles, 19,000 kilometers. For comparison, our moon is like 20 times farther away from Earth. Just a little reference. But Chiron's orbit around Pluto also takes 153 hours. So it's the same time for Pluto to even make one rotation. And that means that Chiron neither rises nor sets, but instead hovers on the same spot on Pluto's surface. And it's called tidal locking, which is unique and cool and fun.
Yeah. Super fun.
But of course, Pluto does have 4 other moons. They're much smaller, less than 100 miles or 160 kilometers wide, and they're irregular shaped and not nearly as spherical as Chiron is. Unlike many other moons in the solar system, these moons are not tidally locked to Pluto and instead all spin differently and do not keep the same face towards Pluto. So they on their own wavelength, man.
Yeah.
They are also named for mythological figures, of course, and they are also associated specifically with the underworld. So Chiron is named for the river of Styx boatmen who ferry souls to the underworld. So also honoring Sharon, the wife of Discovery, James Christie, I guess they discovered it and therefore named it in theme, which we appreciate.
Neat.
Nyx is named for the mother of Chiron, who is also the goddess of darkness and night. Hydra is named for the nine-headed serpent that we know of from like Hercules.
We do.
And they guard the underworld. Kerberos. Wait, what?
Kerberos, I think it is.
Yes.
Kerberos is the three-headed dog, like Fluffy from Harry Potter.
I think some people missay it as Cerberus, which apparently is something else, but also related. Yeah. It's weird.
It's I think it also has to do with like the Latin pronunciation, because I
Yeah.
distinctly remember my Latin professor being like, it's Kerberos, and I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
okay. But
Okay.
also, I'm not sure.
But also concerns.
Yeah.
And then Styx, of course, like we just indicated that there's a boatman for. Styx is then named for the actual mythological river that separates the world of the living and the realm of the dead. So, fun times. Again, love a good theme. Can't complain.
I think Roman mythology should be our next one.
Honestly, we need to do one on Roman, Greek, Egyptian. Like we just have a ton to go through.
We do. We do.
So what it looked like. It has a radius of 715 miles or just over 1,100 kilometers. Its orbit around the sun is quite unusual, and we talked briefly about this in terms of its orbit when we discussed Neptune, and that's because they do cross over into each other's orbit. Neptune going further away from the sun at times than Pluto even is, despite the fact that Pluto is considered the last planet in the system. So Pluto's 248-year-long oval-shaped orbit can take it as far as 49 astronomical units, or AU, from the sun, and as close to as 30 AU. And this means that AU is the distance between Earth and the sun, which is about 93 million miles or 150 million kilometers. But on average, Pluto is 3.7 billion miles or 5.9 billion kilometers away from the sun, or 39 AU. So a lot of metrics. It's just weird. Just take that away.
Yes.
So from 1979 to 1999, Pluto was near perihelion when it is closest to the sun. And during that time, Pluto was actually closer than Neptune, which is what we've discussed previously.
Yeah. Because the orbits are weird.
Orbits are weird. And the axis is tilted 57 degrees with respect to the plane of its orbit around the sun. So it spins almost on its side. And we discussed this when we talked about Uranus, when it's completely on its side, almost 90 degrees. And also exhibits a retrograde spin, also similar to Uranus, and then Venus that spins in retrograde. Structure, Pluto is about 2/3 the diameter of Earth's moon. So she's tiny. And probably has a rocky core, and we say probably because we don't know, obviously.
Right.
And surrounded by a mantle of water ice. So that's good because there's water, or a form of it. Yeah. Best guess. And interesting ices like methane and nitrogen frost will coat the surface. Due to its lower density, then, Pluto's mass is about 1/6 of Earth's moon, which is also kind of crazy.
That is.
It does actually have a surface. Woohoo.
Wow.
We never thought we'd come here.
I mean, that far out, clearly.
It is pretty far.
Wow.
But its surface is characterized by mountains, valleys, plains, craters, the essential planet kind of terrestrial feel that we're used to when it comes to Earth and the other planets we discovered prior to Jupiter. The temperature on Pluto can be as cold as -375 to -400 degrees, and that's like -226 to 240 degrees Celsius. Its tallest mountains are 65 to 9,800 feet, or I don't know why they did 2 to 3 kilometers, because that's obviously incorrect. So I don't know what it is in kilometers. Forgive me. I have no idea what they're doing there. Forgive me. I don't know. Doesn't matter. They're
You're
tall.
forgiven.
Thank you.
No, but it's feet to kilometers though.
Is that what it is?
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Kilometers. I don't know.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. The tallest is like 98.
This is what happens when you don't have the metric system in your country.
It's true. It's true. It's all wonky.
Also, the temperatures make me think of the weather guy on Family Guy, Ollie, where he's like,
it's rated sideways.
It's really cold.
I love it.
Yeah.
Back to you, Ollie. The mountains are big blocks of water ice. Sometimes frozen gases like methane are also coating them. And the long troughs and valleys can be as long as 370 miles or 600 kilometers, add to the interesting features of the faraway dwarf planet. Because of the methane coating, however, the snow that you see in the photos that you see of Pluto will actually appear red. So
fun.
Yes. So, and that's because of the gases. You have questions.
But methane is blue.
Apparently not. On this planet, the mixture of frozen, and to be fair, frozen versus liquid versus gas.
Yeah.
Couldn't I tell you? It could be the mixture of the methane plus whatever else is there that's coating it in this red color.
Yeah.
I couldn't say.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. We're not used to methane being solid.
We're not used to methane being anything but a gas.
Right.
It's gross in here every time.
Every time.
So yeah, it's red. Take a look. It's interesting.
It snows, but the snow is red. Like,
do you want to just be caught on that for a little bit?
Yeah, I do, because
yeah,
like it's like snowing blood or something. Like, what?
This is now a horror podcast. Yeah,
it makes me very uncomfortable.
I mean, if anybody ever wondered why it appears red, now you know. It's just uncomfortable. Yeah. Isn't it fun? Are you having fun?
No.
Okay, we'll just shoot. It's okay. We'll just
keep
shoot
going.
You along.
It's fine.
Everything is fine. Let's talk about craters instead. Will that make you feel better?
Okay. Sure.
Okay. So Pluto does have craters, as most of the planets do that have a surface that we know of. They can be as large as 162 miles or 260 kilometers in diameter, and they dot the landscape and obviously show signs of erosion, filling, tectonic forces, potentially even on Pluto. So similar to Earth, there are tectonic plates that are creating mountains and therefore also inadvertently creating valleys or widening craters or shrinking craters, depending on where they are on the fault lines, because that's what happens with tectonic plates for science people.
Right.
The most prominent plains observed on Pluto appear to be made of frozen nitrogen gas and do not show craters, and these plains do show structures suggesting convection, so blobs of material circulating up and down. Convection is a science word, so
we like convection. Convection
Woo!
oven.
Yes, exactly. And the more you know.
The more you know.
It does also have an atmosphere. It's very thin, however, and it expands when it comes closer to the sun and then collapses as it moves further away, similar to what happens with a comet. And that checks out. So you're thinning atmosphere the further you away from it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
The main constituent in the atmosphere is molecular nitrogen, and though molecules of methane and carbon monoxide are detected, they're not nearly as prevalent. And when Pluto is close to the sun, its surface ice sublimates, which just means changes directly from solid to gas, because you're taking something that is solid, introducing it to aggressive amounts of heat randomly, and then it essentially immediately changes to a different form.
Right.
And rise to temporarily form a thin atmosphere, which is why, as it gets closer, the atmosphere thickens. Again, for obvious reasons. Pluto's low gravity, about 6% of Earth's, causes the atmosphere to be much more extended in altitude than our planets, and Pluto becomes much colder during the part of each year when it is traveling further away from the sun. During the time the bulk of the planet's atmosphere may freeze and fall as snow to the surface. Again, because you're taking one system that's very used to being close to the sun and having the heat retention to completely eliminating that very quickly.
Right.
And then also, as some of the planets have had up to this point, the magnetosphere is always a question. We don't 100% know whether it does have one, but even if it does, it's quite small. And the slow rotation of the planet indicates it may just have none at all. So, yeah. We're going to take a tiny Pluto-like break.
Okay.
And let you get acquainted with your cat, apparently.
The cat has been harassing me for the past 10 minutes.
He's like, excuse me, what could you be doing more than giving me attention? You know?
Yeah. He's got his little paw on my shoulder a minute ago.
Excuse you.
Mm-hmm.
So you go hang with your cat.
Thanks, I will. And
we'll be back.
Okay, bye.
Every week, you listen to the MCP host droll on and on about, quote, interesting topics. And yes, I did just use air quotes for that.
We are positive your listeners would come up with better topics than them, and so we are enlisting you to send them over so we can talk more about exciting things in the future episodes.
We highly encourage you to do yourself and other listeners a favor and start sending good topic ideas over to mediocrecontentpodcast@gmail.com.
We even give you permission to slide into their DMs over on Instagram at Mediocre Content Podcast and Twitter at Mediocre Squawks.
If you don't decide to send topics over, prepare yourself for continued intense mediocrity.
Though honestly, it will probably be mediocre either way. Thanks for trying, and good luck in the second half of this interesting podcast, air quotes still included.
Welcome back. Blair's cat has left the building, and we're ready to crack on, I guess.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys updated if he comes back.
He just wants to be loved.
He's so aggressive in that way.
He is. Steal your attention right away.
Exactly.
Okay, so this sounds cheesy, but we're going to talk about Pluto time. And I don't mean like, oh, this is Pluto time. I mean, no, there's something called Pluto time and it exists. So, Pluto orbits on the fringes of our solar system, billions of miles away. We know this. We've just discussed this. Obviously, because of that, the sunlight is much weaker there than it is on Earth, and yet it's completely dark. And in fact, for just a moment near dawn and dusk each day, the illumination on Earth matches that of high noon on Pluto. That's how dark it is. We call this Pluto time. And if you go outside on this time on a clear day, the world around you will be as bright as the brightest part of the day on Pluto. So if you ever want to experience that and kind of get an idea of what it would be like at the highest point of, quote, daylight on Pluto, that's what you can do. And it's kind of cute and lots of fun for people who just want to have a good time, I guess, or wake up early. I don't know. I hate waking up early.
It's actually kind of nice. It's always like golden hour.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, exactly.
For like a moment.
Just a moment. Yeah, very brief.
Just a moment. Yeah.
Let Pluto
you gotta
have
run
its
outside
moment.
and get your vitamin D really quick and then like run back inside.
Yeah. You're like 100.
And then like, yeah.
You're
like Eskimo suit.
I guess it would be like 60-ish hours into your 153 day too. So you're just like 54, 55. Okay, let's go. You know? Oh man. Okay, and then also the question we always ask is the whole potential for life or whatever. The surface is too cold. It seems very unlikely. However, as we did discuss, technically it does have a form of water on it. So, you know, that's great. And if you think about it, as the planet has its funky orbit, you might be closer to the sun at some point, you know, so it might warm up a little and maybe get you a little water. Oh, wait, no, because it turns immediately to gas from a solid. So never mind. I'm just kidding. It's bad.
Steamy.
Yeah, steamy. Be like a sauna, I guess. I don't know.
No.
No. They do think that Pluto's interior may be warmer. And some even think that there could be an ocean deep inside, because if it's fully solid ice for the majority of its life and has been that far away in general for an extended amount of billions of years, then it might just be a frozen ocean. Who knows? Could be. The formation is interesting, though, and this is where the discussion regarding its new classification comes through. We touched on it briefly, but this goes into a little bit more detail. So the Pluto planet, the Pluto dwarf planet, has been discovered to be a member of a group of objects that orbit in a disk-like zone beyond the orbit of Neptune called the Kuiper Belt. I think that's how you, or Kuiper? I don't know. Kuiper Belt is what I'm going to go with.
Plot twist, my cat just landed on my desk on top of all of my wedding photos. It just like was like, I'm doing it.
I'm here. I'm in your face. Hi, Jinx. And this distant realm is populated with thousands of miniature icy worlds, which formed early in history of our solar system, about that 4.5 billion years ago. And so these icy, rocky bodies are called the Kuiper Belt objects, or trans-Neptunian objects, and or Plutoids. And so basically what happened is they realized that Pluto was so similar to the other objects that were in this area that they decided, instead of like an actual planet, it's just part of these other things that are also very similar. We're going to downgrade it to dwarf planet, because there's so many others. So basically what they're saying is Pluto is one of many that could also technically be called planets of our solar system, and instead they're so similar that they're just part of a belt, and that's it.
Yeah, they didn't want to have to name like all of the other planets.
Right. Laziness.
That would have been a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what can I say?
It has to be pretty stand out to be a planet, I guess.
It does.
Of our, like a main character planet.
It's got main character energy.
Yeah.
Apparently it had main character energy until it was discovered there were others. So they're like, nope, just an NPC. Poor Pluto.
Poor Pluto.
So let's talk about the Kuiper Belt just a little bit. Both Pluto and Arrokoth, which is the most distant and most primitive object ever explored by spacecraft, discovered in 2014 by NASA's New Horizons science team using the Hubble telescope. They're both in the Kuiper Belt, and a donut-shaped region of icy bodies that orbit Neptune is just what that is. I've already explained that. There may be millions of these icy objects, though, hence the naming and the reclassification. And similar to the asteroid belt, this belt is a region of leftovers from solar systems earlier in history, like the asteroid belt, which we did talk about when we were closer to it in many, many episodes ago.
Yes.
It has also been shaped by a giant planet, although it's more of a thick disk, kind of like donut shaped, than a thin belt. And the Kuiper Belt shouldn't be confused with which is funnily named the Oort cloud, which I love to say. Oort. Apparently, that is much more distant region of icy comet-like bodies that surround the solar system, including the Kuiper Belt. But both the Oort cloud and Kuiper Belt are thought to be sources of comets that we see and that come into our atmosphere every now and then. So they have a long distance to travel, but we do see them from time to time. Nice. The Kuiper Belt is truly a frontier in space. It's just a place we're starting to explore and understand, which is, again, another portion of the reclassification that happened. Exploration, it ain't that much. On July 14th, 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft made its historic flight through the Pluto system, providing the first close-up images of Pluto and its moons and collecting other data that transformed our understanding of these mysterious worlds on the solar system's outer frontier. In the years since that groundbreaking flyby, nearly every conjecture about Pluto possibly being an inert ball of ice has been thrown out the window or flipped on its head because we're learning, about it and
New
where
stuff.
where it lives,
Yeah.
And a scientist, a principal investigator, Alan Stern from New Horizons, stated, "It's clear to me that the solar system saved the best for last. We could not have explored a more fascinating or scientifically important planet at the edge of our solar system. The New Horizons team worked for 15 years to plan and execute this flyby, and Pluto paid us back in spades," end quote. So, for a reclassified planet, they sure do riz it up. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So
they like it.
Yeah. And there might be other planets that are similar to it. I'm excited to learn about other dwarf planets and about the expanse of how many planets we could have had not made this discovery. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
Pluto may have been the final planet in our system, but also there could have been 4 or 5 others just like it that could have been classified the same way at some point.
Yeah, it's totally true.
And with that, to a point, we're kind of done. Just an update for those who do enjoy the solar series and were wondering why we still haven't talked about Earth. Here's your info. The plan right now is to do Earth next and then also kind of break into the sun and see what's going on in there and any discoveries and interesting facts we may have about it. So while the solar system is technically done, we still haven't done our own planet and then our big beautiful sun star that deserves an episode.
Agreed.
But we're very close. We're very close to ending this part of it, which is exciting. I think at some point I'd want to talk about galaxies or maybe more obscure things at some point, but
black holes
definitely needs to be a topic, but that'll end it for now once we finish.
We can all have an existential crisis together.
I have one daily. I don't even feel like I don't think you're right if you don't at this point in our history.
Fair.
So yeah, but you guys can always suggest things, if there's other things you want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, you can always email us at mediocrecontentpodcast@gmail.com. You can send us tweets at mediocre squawks or follow us on Instagram at mediocre content podcast. You can also follow us on TikTok. We do Twitch streams bi-weekly. Not bi-weekly. That's not how you say that.
No, that's right. That's bi-weekly.
I thought bi-weekly was twice a week.
Is it?
I don't know. We do it every other week on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and then 11
BST. Yeah.
11 BST.
Yeah.
11 p.m. BST because we're fancy. Let's see. I think that's it.
I think so. 5 stars?
Don't forget to rate us 5 stars all the time, everywhere, wherever you go. 5 stars.
We'll be heartbroken otherwise.
5 stars for Pluto, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.